Hello and welcome to the Down Under Visa Philippines to Australia podcast series. I'm your host, Jeff Harvie, Registered Migration Agent with Down Under Visa, the premier Australian migration agents in Manila, Philippines, specialising in visas for Australian Filipina couples. We hope you enjoy this podcast and hope it proves useful to you. Please feel free to share this with your partner and with any of your interested friends. Let's get started. Down Under Visa clients, which one are you? Australian visas from Philippines, in safe hands with Down Under Visa. Down Under Visa and staff, we really do know what we're doing. We are the place to go for an Australian visa from the Philippines to Australia for Australian Filipina couples. Jeff Harvie at the helm, 20 odd years experience with Philippines and Australian Filipina relationships, happily married to Manila, who I will happily say is the best export from the Bicol region, and a qualified registered migration agent of high repute. Now Mila is here to deal with secret women's business, son Jeremy as the office administration manager with a very sharp eye for detail, and he's also married to a Filipino lady, by the way. My daughter Remy is our administrator, who keeps the migration hub updated and pumping, and our 6 office staff members who do document checking and organising of visa requirements for that most perfect of visa applications. Now we are the place to go to manage your Australian visa application for the girl of your dreams from the Philippines. Hundreds of clients each year place their trust in Jeff Harvie and the team for their Australian visas, and they tell us things like this. Down Under Visa provided us with fantastic service. We did an offshore partner visa application for my wife, Florina. We got the visa really quickly, only 4 months. And I'm sure it was because of the thorough job that Down Under Visa did with our application. Now, I found the whole process very professional. The team of Down Under Visa really know what they're doing. They have a portal website that makes it easy to track and submit all of the requirements. Everything that we were required to do was listed on the website. Basically, all I had to do was to provide them with everything they asked for. If I had questions along the way, they were really responsive. They provided me with good advice and I was confident I was in good hands. I've got friends who have used other agents and they're still waiting for their visas because I think they used a generic agent who did not know the specifics of Filipina visa applications. Jeff and the team of Down Under Visa specialise in applying for visas for Australian Filipina couples. They make sure when they submit the visa application that it is done correctly with all the information required. Now my wife and I are happily living in Australia planning our family. Thanks so much to Jeff and Jeremy and the rest of the team. You have 2 very happy customers with myself and Florina. Thank you to Craig and Florina for that. We really do appreciate that, I will say, because look, it's hard work. Sometimes the hours are long, but what does make it all worthwhile is that we realise what a difference we are making to people now. Mila and I have been there ourselves. We know what it's like, and we understand and we empathise absolutely with what you're going through, and we are constantly trying to improve things, make things easier, make things smoother, make things less confusing, less stressful for you, because we know that just simply being apart, that gives you enough stress as it is. So we do our best to try to reduce that, and things like the migration hub, which Craig and Florina referred to there, they do make life a lot easier getting through the process. So it is really nice to hear that. So anytime you have compliments, feel free to share them with us. Administrative Affairs Tribunal, or if they have to apply again, that will be the first thing what if it's refused? And if it's refused, what do we do? How do we handle it? What's it going to cost? And you're thinking, my goodness, we're not thinking, we're not taking on a client and thinking, well, this is going to be refused. We don't see it happen very often, but the stressed warrior is worrying about that right from the very start. And this is also the client who scours the internet for additional strategies and tales of warning and woe found on internet advice forums and on the various Facebook groups out there. And we spent a fair bit of time explaining why these strategies are not necessary and how these matters of concern we have already well and truly dealt with. So, it'll be a case of every few weeks we get, what about this, or I've heard this, or, I've heard that, are we doing this, or, what if this happens? And, we have to explain that, we've thought about all of that and we covered all of that because, my goodness, I'd say we've seen pretty much everything at this particular point. On the first point, we can't give guarantees. It's unethical, and our code of conduct forbids us from promising any outcomes. I can, however, tell you that refusals, while they do happen, they don't happen very often. Weak cases, we turn away. And those strong cases that we keep, well, we watch them very closely, and we pick on you to no end if you don't get us what we need. Now, you paid us to be thorough, and thorough we are. Look, tourist visa refusals, they happen from time to time, but fairly rarely for couples. And our last partner visa refusal was several years ago. I tell you bluntly that most of the time those which have been refused, in fact probably almost every time, it's been because somebody has done something fairly careless. Those who follow our directions and do everything to the letter, again, I cannot give guarantees, but we really don't see refusals very often at all. Again, follow our directions and don't get sidetracked with Facebook group advice. If you mix up your advice, if you mix our advice that you paid for with unqualified advice that you haven't paid for, yes, you can most certainly, get yourself into hot water very easily. Now, the second point, look, I just had somebody ask me a question in our Philippines to Australia Facebook group. If you haven't joined, please do. Philippines to Australia, it's called. And they asked the same question on another group. Now, difference is Philippines to Australia. If somebody asks a visa-related question, I am the only one who answers it. Nobody else does. In fact, I will answer the question and then I'll close it off to comments because I don't want people who are not qualified to get in there and give advice. It happens to be against the law, and we insist on doing what's right. But in this particular case, they asked a question on Philippines to Australia, and they asked the same question on another group which didn't have an in-house registered migration agent like our group has. And I could not believe the rubbish that people were telling this poor chap. It's horrendous. Basically, if he had followed that, I have no idea what he did, but it would have gone very, very wrong for him if he had followed that advice. Now, we do nothing but Australian visas, partner visas, and tourist visas, plus child visas, citizenship applications for Australian Filipino couples to Australia. We live and breathe this, and you are also paying for our expertise, and too many cooks will definitely spoil your visa broth. Read what we give you, it will keep you busy enough. Now, the other sort is the laid-back and casual client. And by contrast, we certainly have this person. They're the exact opposite. On the surface, they are less work because we don't hear as much from them. They're not asking us about, what about this, what about that. But much as we do adore all of our clients, we probably prefer the warrior. The laid-back and casual client is more likely to make a mistake or run out of time or shortchange us with visa requirements that we really need. This is the client who gets to the point where, say the tourist visa which the Filipino lady is using to remain in Australia is about to run out, or the point of no return of her pregnancy is coming up rapidly where she can't travel. Or they are the ones who let the visa run out, or essential visa conditions are breached because of missed deadlines. This can result in visas being cancelled and ladies having to return to the Philippines all alone. This is the client who forgets the fact they were supposed to get married before we applied for a partner visa and didn't organise enough relationship evidence for the application to demonstrate a strong case. We get this. We make it abundantly clear to people, this is what you have to do. Okay, you need to organise your wedding, you need to get married. And we hear from them a week before the tourist visa is about to run out. We say, well, okay, you got married, of course, didn't you? They go, no, we were thinking of doing that later. And you go, we've told you again and again. We've made it so clear. Oh, well, I didn't know how to do that. And they do that, or they've, things they were supposed to do, they haven't done. They've got no evidence, or they haven't got money. The bulk of the visa application is paid for normally just before the application is lodged. We get to that point where, my goodness, we need to finalise this application, and they go, oh, my goodness, I've got $200 in the bank, and as I said, too casual. So now these clients are harder to manage for us, but again, we don't lose too many of you. It just means we need to push harder. However, there's a limit of how much we can do if clients don't do the things that they need to do. We will give you all the guidance, encouragement and clarification needed, but we need you to get stuck into this with enthusiasm. Now, we have great success rates, but you need to do your bit. There are lots of things we cannot do. We do everything that is within our power, but we can't be the ones who organise your divorce documents or scour through your communication records and get those. We can't do that. You have to do these things yourselves. Look, I'd say 80% plus of the value in a visa application. It's not the form. Don't think filling out the form is the bulk of the work. It is absolutely not. 80% plus of the value in a visa application is the documents and relationship evidence. In other words, what's called the visa requirements that you supply us with. Now, we can tell you what to get, how to get it, and we can check it very thoroughly for quality and quantity, but you still have to gather it up and send it to us in the first place. If you are too casual about this, and if you don't watch the dates and deadlines, well, yes, it can all go horribly wrong. The solution to all of this is to choose your registered migration agent wisely and then follow the guidance and advice that you receive. It will remain scary to the warrior. They'll always worry right up until the point where the visa gets granted, and it will seem like too much work to the laid-back person who will, grizzle that this is much too hard. But you really are in safe hands with Down Under Visa, so yes, let's get stuck into it. Thanks very much. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of the Down Under Visa Philippines to Australia podcast series. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed and we hope you found this useful. Australian visas from the Philippines are not easy and the outcome matters, as you well know. Please feel free to contact us anytime if you need some further help. And we look forward to talking to you again next time. Bye bye.